Hello, and welcome to today's webcast entitled Unlock the Power of Private AI for State and Local Government. I'm Sean McSpaden. I serve as a senior fellow with the Center for Digital Government and with our Center for Public Sector AI. I'm very excited to serve as the host for today's webcast. I think we've got a great lineup for you, some great content. We're going to have a great session over the next 60 minutes. We do have some housekeeping notes for you on the screen. We'll email all registrants a copy of the presentation within 48 hours of the close of the webcast. Feel free to use the link to the recording for your reference, or better yet, please pass it along to your colleagues using the share widget in the console menu. We'd also welcome any questions that you might have, so please submit them along the way using the Q&A widget in the console menu. We'll get to as many of them as we can. And finally, we do have some additional resources available for you in the available for download via the related content widget in the console menu. Well, with that housekeeping out of the way, it's my great pleasure to introduce our two featured speakers. We have Matthew Dietz from Cisco and Raphael Meyerowitz from Presidio. Matt, why don't we start with you? I'd love to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to the audience.
Absolutely, thank you. So Matthew Dietz here, one of, as you can read, one of our directors here at Cisco, focusing heavily on AI as well as cybersecurity. Prior to coming to Cisco, I was actually a CIO for a government in Indiana, go Hoosiers, and helped lead a lot of the innovations that state and local governments are kind of facing even today, but this was during the pandemic. And so, firsthand knowledge on, all the different pressures that we face as a lot of state and local leaders, and bringing some of that experience over here to Cisco as well.
Thank you for that. Great to have you with us. And Raphael, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, great to meet everyone. Thank you. Appreciate the time today. I'm Raphael Meyerowitz. I'm the Partner VP at Presidio, in charge of go-to-market with Presidio, in charge of our go-to-market with our partners, and Cisco's our largest partner at Presidio. I've been at Presidio 24 years, long time.
Thank you, Raphael. Both of you, just great to have you with us. I know we're going to have a great conversation. I've just got a few opening remarks, but to prepare our audience, we've got a couple of poll questions for you coming up. So, with that said, of course, as many of you already know, AI is beginning to reshape how state and local government, is operating. Our plans for the future, our ability to become more efficient and effective, and to serve the constituents that we're here to serve. But with that introduction of emerging technologies and innovation comes great responsibility. We're faced with a variety of questions. In particular, how do our organizations leverage AI while safeguarding the sensitive data that we're entrusted to protect? And how do we maintain compliance in this highly regulated environment that we operate in? Over the next 60 minutes, Matthew and Raphael, they'll share their insights on the evolving AI landscape, the role of private AI in government. They'll provide some best practice advice and some actionable strategies for driving meaningful outcomes in your state and local government organizations. And finally, we'll, along the way, explore some real world use cases, some emerging trends, and they'll share some practical steps they'd recommend that you take as you begin your AI journey. With that introduction out of the way, I'd love to move to our first poll question. We'd love to learn a bit more from you all about where you are in your AI journey. The question we posed, which statement best describes your organization's current AI maturity? We provided response options A through E, and while you're recording your responses, Matthew and Raphael and I will have a brief conversation. So for the two of you, I'd love to get your perspective on some of the most common mistakes you see state and local government agencies make at each of the stages of maturity. Also, I'd love to get your advice on what steps that leaders in those public sector organizations need to be mindful of so that they don't avoid critical steps in their AI journey. Matt, why don't we start with you, and Raphael, feel free to jump in at any time.
Absolutely. So it's a great question, and one I can answer pretty easily because there are plenty of mistakes that I made during my journey as a CIO in the government sector. And one of them, really, I would say the biggest, mistake I made during any kind of technological journey is getting everyone, all the different, department leaders, elected officials on board, hearing out, all of their concerns and making sure that we didn't go about this in a siloed approach. We definitely tried that, but having more in-depth conversations to better understand their workflows and how they operated really was something that, was a learning experience for me and something that really helped drive, the adoption of a lot of this technological advancement. It wasn't AI at the time, but it was, definitely, technology coming into multiple different sectors, how we, delivered services to the community. And so getting everyone on board was one of the things that I should have done a better job to kick it off. Did learn that, that mistake halfway through and did correct that. But what you really want to do is make sure you get the buy-in of all these different leaders, because not only do you want them to support it, but you want them to actually use it. I think that's a really important thing to consider as we move through this AI era.
Yeah, Matt, I would agree with all of those points. One thing that I think also we've probably seen with how quickly technology evolves today, you also don't want to be stagnant, right? So you don't want to, if you have too many people that are opinionated, you're going to end up getting nowhere very, very quickly. And this is very important to understand, like, who are the people that really matter and really count at the end of the day, and making sure that those people have a voice. But if you get too many opinions on AI, you're going to end up stalling yourself as well. So make sure it's consistent in terms of what you deliver, obviously secure, but I think those are a few points that I would say are very, very important.
Yeah, you both make just some great points. Matt, governance, stakeholder management, communication, change management, all of those, critical elements really rely on making sure you've got the right people involved, those with skin in the game, those that ultimately the solution is meant to serve, or they're the ones who are going to be utilizing it to better serve their constituents, et cetera. And Raphael, just some great points about be careful about the size of the groups that you put together. Too many cooks in the kitchen is difficult to manage, but also if everyone is in a decision-making role, then no one is accountable, right? So you've got to be thoughtful around that. Let's move to our poll results to find out where our audience sits at this point. We asked which statement best describes their organization's current AI maturity. It looks like the majority of our respondents are in the first two categories, exploring AI use cases, they're experimenting informally, or at this point, they're very early in the game with no formal AI strategy or policy in place. Matt and Raphael, do these results surprise you in any way, or is this kind of what you expect with the organizations that you've been able to engage in over time?
Yeah, I don't think this really surprises me. I would say maybe a little bit surprising just how many are starting to experience or explore the AI use cases. But at the same time, a lot of the leaders I've met in this space are very forward-thinking, great leaders that are driving a lot of this technological innovation in a sector that is, historically a little slow to adopt it. But at the same time, I think there are, different pitfalls that a lot of us, actually experienced, during the previous kind of transition, during COVID, where everything went digital, and then now with this AI revolution is around, how do we govern this? What is our overarching strategy, and how do we implement this? So that makes a ton of sense. I think there's a lot of concern on just the security aspect and, how we do this, ethically as well as responsibly in terms of keeping everything secure. So I think this just represents a great picture of where the majority of our customers are at.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Matt. I think the question is framed in a way that it asks around maturity, but availability, AI is available to pretty much everyone today. And how you use it is a different story. And you probably have a lot of people that inside of your organizations that are actually using AI today that you're not even aware of. And there's many tools that are available today. A lot of people actually, I'm always surprised how many people are actually using it inside of organizations, and there's no guardrails around it.
Yeah, just some great points. Well, I want to keep the conversation moving. Let's move to our second poll question. We're gravitating exactly in the direction that you were thinking or expressing there, Raphael. Finding out how organizations are using AI in their work today. So we posed the question to you all, our audience. Where are you using AI in your work today? We provided response options A through F. And once again, we'll have a conversation between three of us while you're recording your responses. So, Raphael and Matthew, both of you and your teams, you work a lot with state and local government and education agencies across the nation. From what you've seen and experienced to date, can you highlight some use cases that seem to consistently deliver measurable value? I want to start with Raphael.
Yeah, I mean, measurable value specifically around AI. I want to make sure everyone, I think a lot of people think that, well, it's going to eliminate jobs. It's not necessarily eliminating jobs, it's repetitive tasks. And I think one of the things that specifically inside of government organizations that people look to is they say, well, what is duplicative, right? What can we do just with an AI agent? What can we do? How can we leverage AI to get better results more efficiently? So for me specifically, that's kind of the way that I look at AI today. And I've myself have been using probably AI for 1.5 to 2 years, but I would say that the number one thing that I actually have seen specifically where people are using AI, which you actually don't really realize it, is specifically with public services and citizen engagement. When you just look as an example, and Matt's going to touch on this, right? When you look at all the video feeds that are coming into public services frameworks today, how do you make sure that you can analyze it really, really quickly and make sure that you can figure out what's going on within your environment, maybe even within your organization? And the amount of data that's coming at us is really, really important. The public safety aspect of that is really important. But for myself, I'm making sure that that I can get a leg up on people specifically around data that I already have available. And that's where I think the power is. Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, I would say, a lot of it is around the, operations, seeing what we can automate and orchestrate to save, additional time to really focus on, the workforce itself. That's where, a lot of the customers that I've been working with in the sector kind of start, because it is a smaller use case, and it's a way that we always want to focus on adopting AI in general. Is let's have a crawl, walk, run. Let's not shoot for the moon to start. Let's understand how we're going to use the data that we have, what kind of data that we have, how can we actually showcase the the positive impact that AI can have in terms of improved efficiencies and things like that. And that's usually where a lot of customers are focused right now. But public safety is going to be a close number 2. The way that we leverage AI and machine learning and public safety to make all of our communities safer and more secure is another one as well. So I would say those would be the top 2, but they could all bunch together. Honestly, it's whatever problems or challenges that each one of our customers are trying to solve for that is really going to drive which use case they focus on.
Very good, very good. We actually got a response from one of our audience members that we should have made this question multiple choice. I think the truth is it's probably A through E. Some organizations, all of the above. They're utilizing AI in many different areas of their organizations. That's a great comment. Gentlemen, let's move to our poll results and see where our audience is at this point. Looks like the majority of our respondents are using AI for administration and operation. That kind of makes sense. Let's eat our own dog food, so to speak. Use the tools internally first before we expose our customers, our constituents to these kinds of emerging technologies. Looks like IT and cybersecurity, policy analysis, and decision support are two additional selections. And then we've got a good group, 20% or so, that aren't yet using AI. Any surprises here before we transition to your opening remarks?
I would say my only surprise is on myself for not seeing the IT and cybersecurity. That definitely is up there. With the threat landscape continuously expanding because of all these cool AI tools that we have, so do the adversaries, and so that is going to be the way that a lot of our folks, including even before AI, start leveraging the technology to also protect all the data and the infrastructure that is so critical to a lot of these digital services.
Very good. Raphael?
No, same as what Matt just said. I think the one piece there where it says administration operations, I think the administration operations piece probably ties into all of these other pieces as well. That data is coming from somewhere. So just the thought around that is, where is this data coming from? Could be coming from public safety, but it could be tied into administration and operations, as an example. So
great points. Great points. Thank you, audience members, for giving us some more insight into where all of you are. At this point, I'm going to transition back to you, Matthew. Love to allow you to share some additional points. I know both you and Raphael have some material you'd like to share with our audience. So take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll go ahead and kick this off. And really start diving into a lot of the content, just make sure that we maintain our timeframes that we're shooting for here. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and can share my screen and get this prepared as we start moving forward. And I think, yep, everyone should be able to see that now. So Raphael, I know you wanted to kind of kick this off, so I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. And by the way, there are people that have joined from all over the country. So thank you. Literally state and local government from all over the country. Over 100 people are on, which is pretty phenomenal. So Presidio, actually, if you want to just get to the next slide, please, because I know we're going to be limited on time here. We actually, in conjunction with Cisco, we developed an architecture called HI at Presidio. And what you're going to hear about in my two slides is you're going to hear about, think about the brain and the body. And the body is the infrastructure and software piece of what you actually need specifically to run AI. But the brain is specifically the query that's made, the software that's needed, and sometimes, obviously, it's also the data, right? Where is the data? Presidio is a very, very large Cisco partner. Cisco is our largest partner at Presidio today, and I've been at Presidio for many years. It's been like that for many, many years. Why is Cisco one of our largest partners? Because Cisco provides, and we touched on this, they provide the security aspects around AI, the infrastructure that's needed, the GPU acceleration, the network acceleration, and they intersect with applications that customers are using on a regular basis. As an example, collaboration, contact center. Splunk is a big part of AI today, and Cisco owns Splunk. They purchased Splunk about 2 years ago. So those are really, really important aspects. And then when you tie in some of the partnerships that they have with some of the providers out there in terms of software, and you can think about Red Hat, and then even on the hardware side, some of the storage partners, they've provided these reference architectures that are really the body. And then Presidio provides the brain. We have many, many engineers at Presidio. We have about 2,000 engineers, that can provide implementation expertise, managed services expertise, and even just pre-sales expertise that customers are looking to leverage. If you want to pivot to the next slide. Thanks. So when you think about this, I spoke about kind of the brain, and maybe think about this from your own day-to-day, the way that you leverage AI. Even if you leverage AI, not even on Cisco infrastructure today, right? If you just leveraged Copilot or you leveraged ChatGPT, there's a trigger that's needed, right? That trigger is pretty much a prompt that the user provides. The brain, specifically in this situation, could be if you actually are providing something around deploying agents. So you need to build that out through some sort of software orchestration and mechanism, which is very, very easy today because of some of the tools that are available. But you also need the body, and that body is specifically Cisco AI pods. And at the end, what your business is looking for, what your organization is looking for, is specifically the outcome. If you can think about that in reverse, I think that will really, really help your AI journey. What is the outcome that you're trying to get to? I'm sure today within your organizations, you guys are getting pinged all the time, specifically where people are looking for different outcomes. And outcomes can be a variety of things, but how do you get to that outcome? You can't just get to that outcome without providing what the trigger is, what the brain is, and what the body is. And ultimately, the outcome needs to be beneficial for your organization. So think about that just in terms of big data as an example. And Matt's going to touch on this, right? If you have all this data coming in, well, what is the use of the data, right? If I can't use it and I can't specifically understand what I need to do with that data. So if you talking to a safety department and the safety department requires something, well, that data set that you have specifically can be built into that outcome that you need. But you need, again, the body, in this case, AI pods, the brain, and the trigger to help you out specifically with that. You want to go to the next slide, please, Matt? All right, so over to you, Matt.
Thank you. And yeah, we'll dive right in. And, really, as you all know, the government sector is undergoing this profound transformation, just like every other industry that is being fueled by this accelerating capability that AI brings. And as we move into 2026, no longer is AI really limited to these isolated pilots or theoretical potential benefits. It's really starting to drive a lot of these beneficial outcomes and has started to become a strategic imperative for state, local, as well as even federal agencies. And for a lot of our public sector customers and leaders, adopting AI isn't just about boosting that operational efficiency. It's really essential for improving the types of services and offerings we deliver to all of the citizens in our communities, how we automate and orchestrate operations internally to drive efficiency, and also strengthening a lot of our security posture as we move forward. And so AI is playing a massive role, as all of you know. And so on this slide, I kind of wanted to talk about what are the biggest AI trends that we're starting to see, and focuses from a lot of our governments across not only the globe, not only here in North America, but across the globe as well. And really, the first, especially when it comes to state agencies, you're seeing public safety and emergency response be one of the larger focuses, just because it's one that actually has an impactful focus on how services are rendered and everyone can benefit from. And so from 911 training to non-emergency calls, or accelerating situational awareness if a wildfire breaks out, or accidents on a highway, leveraging AI to help a lot of our government officials to turn these video and images and audio into clear, actionable insights, and streamlining a lot of our public safety operations and decisions is huge. And then, of course, the poll was right on, and I completely slipped my mind, which is around the AI-powered cybersecurity. As this threat landscape continues to widen and increase, we kind of take for granted what AI brings, because we get caught up in all the benefits and all the cool things that we can do. But all those tools, like I said in the intro, those are in the hands of our adversaries as well. And with AI, it's constant. It's constant attacks, constant, just throwing out feelers, seeing what ports are open. Am I getting any response to any of these servers, et cetera, et cetera? And so, the goal with AI-powered cybersecurity tools is really simple. It's to reduce a lot of that dwell time, the noise, especially because of all the packets that are coming through, all the different alerts. We want to reduce that noise, and then really to protect those mission-critical systems, operations, without slowing our IT and other teams down. And then, of course, the citizen services and digital government. This has been going on since the pandemic, but now expectations continue to rise. You're being asked to deliver AI-based services and outcomes to the community, and really start driving something that is almost self-served, kind of access to government services as well. So, having AI have an impact there is really helping agencies to look at how can we improve the experience, but while also keeping our data protected as we move forward. And then, of course, the AI-ready infrastructure and just basically technological modernization is something, again, that's been going on for a while, but something as a former customer, it never stops, especially in the government sector, is, how do we prepare for what is happening now, but also in the future? What does our foundation look like? Can it support all this increase in data, all these different types of interactions that we've never had before? And how do we ensure that it's ready for the future as well? And then finally, or not finally, the fifth one is the operational efficiency and workforce augmentation. It's streamlining a lot of these operations, saving a lot of time, really creating this throughput that has been improved, and the outcomes that we're looking for can be really streamlined as we start leveraging AI. But then what do we do with that time that has been saved? So a lot of our customers are in the government sector are taking that time to then leverage those same tools to uplift, upskill the current workforce. I know firsthand, coming from the government sector, how difficult it can be to, hire the right individuals or grab the skills and, pull them away from the public sector. And so with this ability, with that AI brings to save time, a lot of what is being done is to leverage that time saved to upskill, uplift our current workforce, and then take those AI tools and then give them this kind of exoskeleton to their capabilities, and really, allow our workforce to become that AI leader in every single, state agency or local agency that there is. And then finally, sovereign AI and governance. How are we, going to govern all these different AI initiatives, and then how are we going to keep it secure, especially over in the European market? Data. Our sovereign AI is a massive focus. How do we keep that data secure? We're seeing a lot of repatriation back from the cloud to bringing things on-prem to make sure that all the data that we are leveraging for AI is kept secure, and we can govern it with a unified policy across the board. So we ensure that not only is our citizens' data and our own data kept secure, but is used in proper ethical ways. And you see that, the momentum, obviously in the numbers below, where AI is continuously driving, impact across the board, both financially, operationally, both from the state, local, and federal level. And, a lot of these AI trends that we're seeing across the board also go into what we're seeing here as well in government, which is the ethical AI and compliance. The rise of agentic AI. I think we were probably a year or two early on that. Everyone was saying, 2025 was the year of the AI agents. We started, I think, seeing that towards the end, but 2026 is really where we're going to start seeing this take place, because this is, really different than how AI started working originally. This is moving from how AI responds into an AI agent that can actually orchestrate works, that can plan, that can execute multi-step tasks like triaging or completing citizen requests, assembling type of case context into different types of workloads and different types of responses that need reviews or need to be routed for approval. And with this, you're going to start seeing a lot of these focuses on these specified AI agents that are there to complete specified tasks. And so, third, the AI workforce augmentation, I really hit on there. A lot of state agencies and local agencies are really focusing on preventing trying to replace people. I haven't spoken to a single agency where they are looking at how can we automate this to reduce our workforce. They're trying to scale capacity of their workforce in the face of a lot of staffing constraints that we all have seen from the government sector. And we're seeing a lot of high momentum around co-pilots for different IT workers or just workers, employees in general, and even in contact centers. Is how can we give them these tools to better allow them to execute their task and drive a lot of the the efficiencies that our staff is actually looking for. And then, of course, the AI-powered cybersecurity as well. Again, the threat landscape is just massively expanding, and the only way to deal with all these new types of data, all these new types of attacks, and just data being generated by every little thing in our environments these days, especially with IoT devices, is to leverage AI-powered cybersecurity. Humans, we cannot keep up with that amount of data, so focusing on that AI-powered cybersecurity tools is huge. And then finally, a lot of the emerging AI models, especially smaller models, is really starting to drive and lower the AI adoption and lower the barrier of entry. Is that you don't need 10 GPUs to run a lot of these use cases. With these smaller models that are focused on certain tasks, you're able to run these on some of the existing CPUs as well as some lower end GPUs as well. And that's why everything we're starting to see move to the edge. So AI moving to the edge. Edge is going to be the name of the game in 2026. You're going to hear about it more than you probably ever want to, but that is where everything's going. And it's very, very beneficial for a lot of our customers, because as we start bringing more and more of these services to the edge, it's allowing us, again, to focus on the smaller type models and actually execute AI agents or these different models that actually accomplish tasks, that actually deliver services at the edge where it's needed the most. And this edge market is, again, having a huge impact across every single industry, as well as our government industry as well, because the prediction really that I like to focus on is by 2027, it's expected that 75+% of all data that is being created and processed will be at the edge. And that is a very important statistic, because a lot of these use cases that we're going to see, used to live in a data center type centric vision, especially with the government. But now, as a lot of the processing, the intelligence, and the computer coming to the edge, we're starting to see a lot of these use cases kind of move outside of a data center or cloud and bring them to the edge where it is needed the most. And the reason why that is so important is around a lot of these services, these models, and these outcomes we're looking for require a lot of real-time decisions. We don't have time or the ability to wait on data to go from an edge location all the way back to data center, no matter where that is. A lot of the services, especially citizen services that are so critical, need to be ready and need to be almost real time for them to be effective. If somebody calls in to report an accident, they don't have the necessarily the time to wait for an AI agent to then answer the phone and say, "Oh, let me put you through who needs to be." They need that actual results immediately, and that's where, again, getting that individual to the proper human-based agent that is going to be able to then direct the proper services and response is so critical. But then again, the data sovereignty and compliance is a big reason why things are moving to the edge. Is that it's difficult to maintain the protection of your data when it's in the cloud, in an environment that you have visibility in, but you can't physically control. And so a lot of that, to alleviate some of those concerns that the cloud brings, and the cloud is, I'm not saying I'm anti-cloud, it absolutely serves a purpose, but to be able to ensure that data is being secure or kept secure, and that we're meeting all compliance policies and standards, keeping that on-prem at the edge is really where a lot of the benefits that the edge brings come into play. And then, of course, the resiliency, the continuity, what happens when we have a fiber cut, or what happens when there's a huge outage like we witnessed a little last year, especially with a certain company, grounding a ton of flights because their systems, basically went down and didn't allow our systems that were so critical in delivering these services to be functional. And so again, bringing that resiliency by having that compute, having that intelligence orchestration at the edges is so critical. And then of course the scalable use cases, being able to scale efficiently with ease, as well as being able to push different workloads that are customized and created specifically for different departments. That's where it's going to live, is being able to place from the edge. So again, we're alleviating a lot of the constraint by pushing everything up to the network to a data center. And the reason that we're all talking about this is because everyone, no matter if you're, have a technologically minded, focus on what you're doing, or you're just, helping drive a lot of citizen services, because the revelation of ChatGPT, it's the same reason, that I have my mother texting me and saying, hey, did you see that this chatbot can do this? Or, hey, this gave me this answer. Is that now it's become this value that is being seen by everyone, top to bottom, and everyone is kind of intrigued by it. And when everyone gets intrigued, they start wanting to learn more. And that's because they see some of the benefits around that increased efficiency and business outcomes that, many of us have been looking for, as well as, the enhanced decision-making, especially from a security perspective. We have a lot of, statewide SOCs that are leveraging AI to be able to handle the increase in data. And then, how do we also enhance our workforce? How do we deliver an environment and the tools to our current workforce, but then also potential, employees, and create an attractive environment in which people want to come and work? And I think that's a huge focus, and why AI is being looked at as not only a tool, but also an educator as well. Then, of course, the services improvements and cost efficiencies, everyone is going to love that. Anytime that we can be more efficient, reduce the costs, we're saving taxpayers money, is going to create now this idea that, AI is bringing all the benefits you could possibly ever imagine. And now the conversations are expanding across, just from just IT into, different department heads, different elected officials. And so understanding a lot of, what each group wants to see and the benefits that they want to be, valued or visible, is going to be very important, because, everything that we do needs to be tied to a benefit to, our public, our citizen services. It's what our elected officials care about. It's also what our IT, leaders care about as well. And so because of that, why I always like to start with, before we get into what AI use case we want to dive into, I think it's very, very important to understand, where we're coming from and what we're trying to do. We don't want AI to be a solution in search of a problem. That is where a lot of these POCs start failing, is that it is really neat. We all get excited, but understanding, let's start with, what kind of challenges are we trying to solve for? What efficiencies are we trying to drive? And then asking, is AI even applicable? And if it is, better understand that, how does this, really bake into the plan that we're seeing across the next 18, 24 months? Are we planning for this? Is this being baked into, our organization plan, our state, our, whatever department that you're from? Is this a additive, or is this something that is siloed off of what the original strategy is? And so asking a lot of these questions is really going to help us determine which AI use case is going to be applicable to each individual customer. There isn't a single golden use case out there, or a set of golden use cases. This is going to vary by each state, each department, each city. No matter what it is, we want to make sure that we are asking the proper questions and approaching AI in a very responsible way. And then asking, starting with the basics too, asking, can my infrastructure even support this? We saw a lot of this. I went through this personally as a customer during the pandemic, is that, hey, look, everything's going digital. That's exciting. I love this. But can my network actually support this? Is my security set up to allow for a remote workforce? Apparently that was a tongue twister. But, understanding where we were at allowed us to better plan and, focus on how do we get to that level? How do we not only meet the needs of today, but tomorrow as well? And then, do we have the proper, skill sets internally? And if we don't, how do we go about getting additional education, or bringing in different partners that can help alleviate some of those gaps? And then as IT leaders, I'm speaking to specifically here, understanding what each of our personas really care about. For example, when I was a customer and CIO for a government, when we wanted to upgrade our internal network, it wasn't, hey, look, now we can pass traffic at way higher speeds. We're able to support this. It was, with this network infrastructure upgrade, we're able to deliver better citizen services such as telehealth, such as completely changing the way that we went about, offering judicial services, and really making it as the message and the want rooted in outcomes. Because that's, and this is just me speaking in my case, I knew that's the message that my commissioners, city council, they wanted to hear. They want to understand what the technology is actually going to drive. And so understanding that and really curating some of the messaging that we're bringing to our leaders is a very, very important aspect of bringing AI into reality. So as we start looking at AI use cases, what I like to do is kind of deconstruct one to start out. Because what I like to do here is a lot of times, we get so focused on the AI use case that we don't consider what actually goes into it. And really, I just take one here, and this is around driving, customer service with a personalized agent. Is before you start anything, at the top, data. So data is going to be the most important thing, the most important aspect. I see a lot of customers, and it's something I think we all fall victim to, is we get ahead of ourselves and say, hey, this is a really cool outcome here. But we don't ask, do we have the data that actually can support this model or improve, help drive the outcome we're looking for? Because poor data in equals poor data out. So you can have the greatest model ever, but if your data, you're not capturing the right data, or if it's not curated properly, or it's just kind of a mess all over the place, when you pump that in, you're not going to get the outcome that you're looking for. So really starting with the data, and then the application, or how the end user is going to actually interact with this. Do we need an application platform? Is that something that we can bake into or add into an application platform we have today? How will people interact with this? And then understanding what is going there is going to allow us to then, pick the model, understand the sizing, look at what we need from a compute network standpoint to support all this data. But then, also, how are we going to secure this? If this is going to be a service across the board, both externally and internally, how are we going to secure not only the data, but our users as well? So understanding that allows us to kind of build out what we actually need and understand all the things that go into these AI use cases, rather than just a ChatGPT or a single model. There's a ton of different components that we have to consider before moving into the AI use cases and realizing the value and the benefits that it actually brings. And so that's why I like to kind of break that down first before we get into use cases, because sometimes, we get so focused on the use case, we don't focus on what is the actual foundation and the internals that drive it. So a lot of these use cases that we're seeing, smart and secure facilities across the board. This can be applied to communities, public safety, and things like that as well. That's one of the things that we're focused on, and meeting a lot of these challenges, driving a lot of these benefits. But again, these use cases can seem very complex. So what Presidio and Cisco have started to focus on is trying to make these, easily consumable or deployable, where now we have the security stack. Well, what model do I pick? What we do is then we bring in, again, it can be your model that you want, or we can bring in partners that actually build these models, that actually curate these models. They fine tune them for you. And so in this case, one of our partners OnStack, we would bring in, but then how do we implement this? How do we support? And that's really where, Presidio shines here, is that they kind of bring that support, the consulting approach, and really help us learn how to adopt this, how to support this moving forward. And putting this all together, now it's not, hey, well, we need the infrastructure, but what model do we use? Or we have the model, what infrastructure do we use? With Presidio and Cisco, we're able to kind of answer all that and really provide either a very turnkey type of solution or something that is very customized that you're looking for as well. And you're going to start seeing that approach across a lot of these different use cases, both from customer support agents. How do we take these agents and how do we bake this into our operations? How do we ensure that we have the support moving forward? Because one thing to make very clear is that AI is not like our standard software experience where you get it installed, you update it occasionally. AI is continuously iterative. Being able to fine tune, create the new data that you're getting by having users interact with whatever model you're actually deploying, and then baking that back in, fine tuning the model based on that data to drive a even more beneficial and specified outcome that you're looking for. So again, as we go through some of these use cases, it's the same message across the board. It can vary from external, internal, but being able to, bring what Cisco does from a full stack, all from networking, compute, storage, security, and then with Presidio's extensive partner support, you have that, that solution from a product standpoint, from a consultative standpoint, and then from the expertise that and support that Presidio and Cisco bring together as well. So the last one I wanted to showcase is obviously the AI-powered, kind of SOC of the future. This is what we're seeing with a lot of state agencies, is that they're partnering with a lot of anchor institutions to kind of create, this SOC of the future to not only protect state agencies and workloads, but also all the cities and counties around them as well. And so a lot of that is being focused, and that is being driven by a lot of these AI, powered cybersecurity tools that such as Cisco brings, but also, leveraging some of the interactions and the partnerships that we have in our communities is a huge focus as well. But awesome, Matt, you're telling us about all these different really interesting, things that we can do with it. So why isn't everyone doing it? We saw in that poll earlier, not everyone's there. It's because with a lot of this innovation and transformation, it also drives a ton of complexity. And a lot of what I think we're all struggling with in both the government sector as well as multiple other sectors is that legacy technology, trying to, maintain a proper foundation to really adjust and adapt to the AI powered world, which is, all about data. So how do we now, prepare to, run a lot of these workloads, these agents securely, but also do we have the network to support all this bandwidth? I think it's a misnomer on how impactful some of these AI, solutions are. If you have somebody that's just using, maybe a handful of people using ChatGPT, the impact's not going to be a ton on your network. When you have hundreds of users starting to use this, especially if it's external in the cloud, the tax it's going to have on your network is going to be extensive. So, understanding that many of us are struggling with, maintaining that technology level to support this. And then, of course, trying to improve cybersecurity. I always thought it was, one of those things that was really interesting is, as a customer is like, hey, we want to adopt all this new technology and it sounds great and we want to be able to support that. But then how do you convey that message back to the requester to say, to do so, we're going to need to invest into our cybersecurity as well, because now we are bringing in a new form of interaction, multiple different connections and interactions, both internally and externally, that is going to expand our threat landscape. And we need to approach that with responsibility. So, improving cybersecurity is one, unifying a digital foundation, removing silos, and making sure that we're all working together across departments, which as a, former government person, I know how difficult it can be. So getting everyone to be unified across the board is something many of you are facing. And then how do we simplify the operations, especially for IT? I always thought it was funny, and I like to go back to it again, is that, I'd always have, especially when some new technological advancement came in, is like, hey, we want to implement this. And, sometimes in the back of my head, I was like, that's great. This is a huge undertaking, but we also still have our daily job to actually accomplish. So how do we, adopt something like AI while still actually doing, all the previous extensive work that we've done in IT, and how can we simplify some of that operation to devote more time to, things like AI, and that's a huge concern. And then, of course, the workforce and budget is self-explanatory. It's something I think we all, struggle with, regardless of what innovation we're looking at, is maintaining the proper workforce skill. How do we upskill? And then do we have the budget to actually adopt AI from a top to bottom approach, not just from the model, but the data storage, the security, the network, as well as the compute as well. And so that's, I don't like to get into very product specific and make it a product pitch, but that's what Cisco and especially Presidio are focused on, is kind of bringing that full stack to simplify how we adopt AI. And that's bringing the compute, that is scalable. You can start small, especially with our new unified edge, that you basically just add blades or add these nodes as you go into a single chassis. All the way up to, the high end 10 plus GPU type servers as well. But then bringing that networking that, we're known for into the fray as well, understanding that AI is only as efficient as your network, and, data constraints and bottlenecks really have an impact on ROI, especially when you're getting into GPU usage. Idle GPUs are something that we don't want to see. We want to make sure that data is being able to flow continuously east, west, north, south, no matter what it is. And then, we bring the AI-powered cybersecurity. The 40 plus years that Cisco has been in business, all the data that we've captured internally, we bake in from, our Talos Security Center, as well as, our Thousand Eyes. We take all that data that we're seeing from attacks across the globe, and we bake that into our security products. So you're getting, class-leading, at the edge type AI models that are driving a lot of the security as well. And then we validate and simplify a lot of our designs from both internally and our partners to make this easy to adopt. So what you're getting actually works, actually runs on the stack. And then of course, our unmatched partner ecosystem from folks such as, Presidio that help guide us through this, but also from our ISVs. I can introduce you to a partner of ours that can build that model like I talked about earlier, or build the application. It's something I leverage heavily as a customer, is that, we didn't have the time to do this. What resources can you provide that we can leverage to make the adoption of any technological advancement, not just AI, easier? And that's one of the benefits that we try to bring. And then finally, one of the things I spoke about just a second ago, and probably one of the most important things to me as a former customer, is how are you going to make my life easier as an IT leader? I always had any rep that came in, I would give them the first thing I would say to them, first instruction was, if you're going to bring a product in here that is going to make my life more difficult or my staff's life more complicated, I don't want to hear about it. I want to know what you can deliver that is going to allow us to take some innovative approaches to things, but then how is this going to make the management easier for me in terms of operations, on how I manage security or how I manage compute, any of these things. And that's something that, we're trying to focus heavily on at Cisco, is delivering the tools that, actually make it easier to deploy these AI use cases, maintain these use cases, as well as protect all the data that we're capturing from it. Because at the end of the day, we want to be supportive, and we don't really mind however our customers want to consume data. Is it AI as a service from the cloud, or is it on-prem, or is it a hybrid of both? It doesn't really matter, because we have the ability to support customers wherever they are at, and it doesn't need to be this closed ecosystem of Cisco only. That's something we are very, very focused on, and why we drive a lot of acquisitions and maintain the open standards such as Isovalent, which has Cilium, which is just so critical in securing and maintaining a lot of your Kubernetes, your Docker containers and workloads. We want to make sure that we're just delivering the pieces that you're looking for. And, understanding that we can have a conversation if you're not trying to have anything on-prem, as a data center, or driving these AI compute models. We still have the conversation to talk about, what kind of networking foundation you need. So what the main message here is that we want to support our customers wherever they're at and wherever they're trying to go, however they want. It doesn't need to be a top to bottom only Cisco. We want to, facilitate and fill those needs that our customers have without trying to make it seem like you have to have the full stack. It is something that is very beneficial that Cisco brings, the full stack, all the way from compute down to networking security. One of the few companies out there can do it. But at the same time, if that full stack is not what our customers are looking for, that's not what we're trying to drive. And so with Cisco and Presidio, we're trying to deliver not only the services, but the products that fit all of your needs as well. And so with that, I tried to speed up a little bit to keep us on time and have some time for questions and comments. So I will go ahead and stop sharing. And Raphael, if you want to have a few words or say a few things as well, happy to start here.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Sean, over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, just some great information. You went around the horn with some critical key points about what people need to be thinking about today, how things are transitioning into the future. And I want to, with the remaining time we have, I'd like to give each of you, a minute or so to talk a bit about the next 2 to 3 years. You mentioned, Matt, and Raphael, you did it as well, this concept of private AI, this movement back to on-premise, the use of edge devices, et cetera. What are your thoughts on the emerging trends in private AI that government and education leaders should be preparing for today to avoid being caught flat-footed in the near future? Raphael, maybe a few thoughts from you, then over to you, Matt.
Yeah, I'm going to actually pose a question to Matt on this as well. So, Matt, for a few years now, you've been hearing about the rise of agentic AI, and it's in the media all the time. And I know we can't predict the future. I hate to predict the future because, especially with technology, things move so quickly. What would you say that the state and local government folks should be doing around agentic AI, and what do you think agentic AI means to state and local government?
So I'll answer kind of both at the same time. So when it comes to anything AI and moving in the future, why we're starting to see this repatriation back from the cloud is that, not only is it becoming more and more expensive, but also maintaining the security of our own data and being able to control who has access to what, where, and when is going to be very important, especially when we start looking into agentic agents and how they actually interact with that data. Because one of the things to remember with any sort of agentic agent or even swarm of expert agents is that when you have an agent have access to data, and let's say one of those data sources, or even reverse, the agent has a security breach, or something goes wrong, that actually affects data across the board, especially when we're talking mixture of agents, is that when one of those agents is infected, it actually infects everything else. And so making sure that we maintain, role-based access controls is going to be very, very important. And that's really difficult a lot of times when you have everything in the cloud, especially if you're spread across multiple cloud vendors. Bringing that on-prem is much, much easier to do, because there you're going to have the ability to really drive true zero trust access to a lot of this, and identity-based access, more so than you can in the cloud. It's still possible in the cloud, absolutely, but it gives you a little bit larger control. And that leads us to the second question of how are agents going to come into the fray? We're going to start seeing a lot of, I think, government agencies start adopting either from a third party or building some of these agents on their own to really orchestrate and accomplish some of these, business operational tasks. Starting small, growing big, and really proving out a smaller agent use case is what I see happening. Instead of taking one that can do everything, let's just take one that actually takes our IT tickets or our questions from the public and files them and puts them in the correct way. Another one is around permitting. I think permitting is a headache for a lot of government agencies, and being able to leverage agentic agents to be able to streamline that workflow so the customer or the citizen feels like their needs are being met on a very rapid pace is going to be something that only benefits both the citizen, as well as taking a lot of that mundane tasks off of our current workforce is going to be beneficial as well.
Very good, very good. Well, gentlemen, as we talked about in the lead-in, our preparation for today's webinar, I talked about how quickly 60 minutes goes, and we're near the end of our time. But I want to give each of you an opportunity to share your parting thoughts or key takeaways with our audience. Raphael, I want to start with you.
Yeah, I think with the rapid rise of AI, I think we've said this many times during this call today. Things are going to change. Things are going to evolve. Be careful by getting too many opinions, because you will be stagnated, and make sure that you get at least a few use cases going that can prove the ROI and value specifically, not just to your community, but to the business that you are involved in. Over to you, Matt.
I agree with everything you just said there. One of the things I would highly suggest is looking at different initiatives that state agencies, local, county, city initiatives that they are also undertaking, and look at what is being coined as these AI hubs. And a lot of states are focused on creating these AI hubs to democratize access to compute and AI. And I think that's a very important thing to kind of consider, is that if we're all building out our own little silos, data centers, we're going to run into some of the issues that are just so inherent with AI, which is power. Who supports it? Do we have access? being able to work with state agencies as well as local agencies to kind of create these hubs that has this hyper distributed access to things like compute is going to be something that we should definitely look into as we start looking more and more into democratizing access into AI. Anytime that we have a transformative technology such as AI, we want to make sure that every agency, every city, state has access to it, because that's exactly how we drive a lot of our initiatives and just overall well-being forward as we move into the future.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Raphael, just some great points. Matthew, great points. I love this this call for multi-jurisdictional collaboration and coordination. In my home state of Oregon, we have well over 100 different state agency boards and commissions, nearly 1,000 special districts, 241 incorporated cities, 36 counties, nearly 200 independent school districts. There's not a prayer, not a way in the world that each of those public jurisdictions could stand up a sandbox or a hub and test out these solutions individually. We've got to work together across government, across the public sector in particular, to help one another advance in this area in an equivalent manner, right? So that we don't create this have and have not kind of situation when we're all here to serve the same people, right? So
absolutely. And I think, what that bleeds into as well is understanding that we're all trying to figure this out. It's, I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves as IT, technological folks, as well as, public servants, is that we have to do this. We have to understand this from the get-go, and being able to understand that, hey, we're all figuring this out, and bringing in the help and the resources that are available, especially what Presidio brings, really helps alleviate a lot of that stress and, take the pressure off ourselves and understand this is a process and something that we're going to adopt over time.
Very good. Very good. Well, Matthew and Raphael, thank you so much for your insights today. We greatly appreciate the thought leadership. I'd also like to thank Presidio and Cisco for making it possible to have this important webcast discussion today. And finally, I want to thank all of you, our audience, for spending some of your scarce time with us. We really look forward to seeing you all again soon at another government technology event in the near future. And with that, I wish all of you a great rest of your day. Thank you so much. Again, Matthew and Raphael, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.